Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and continuing on with the Christmassy reviews on the weekdays. Well guys, we come to our second to last Christmassy film, and yes, that's right guys. You know what I'm reviewing next. You yourselves read the title, of course, and as I clearly teased in the last Christmassy review, I'm sure most of you figured it out, you know. I mentioned Ben Stiller by name, because him being in this one Christmassy streaming film that's on Hulu, and I thought for sure, but when I teased this, I said that this also not only comes from Hulu, but also from 20th Century Fox / Studios. Well, I was wrong, because I could have sworn it was. I might have had a Mandela effect, but I'm just saying, I genuinely thought this was also from 20th Century Fox / Studios, but nope. It is a Hulu original, but this, 20th Century Fox / Studios was not involved, but alright. Anyways, that was a mistake, but alright. So, yes guys, I don't know how much of you have enjoyed this one streaming Christmassy film that's on Hulu, that stars the one and only Ben Stiller. Maybe most of you enjoyed it. For me, yeah, but that's right guys. I am now reviewing from 2024, Nutcrackers. Yes, Hulu's Nutcrackers. Yeah, this was a pretty interesting Christmassy film. The first things I have to say about this movie, because, ever since I first heard about this, I had seen the trailers, and knowing that Ben Stiller was going to be in this, and me reacting to the trailers, yeah, I was down to give this a watch, and, especially on account that, at some point, review this, and, well, here I am now, about to do my review of it. When sitting down and watching this movie all the way through in its entire glory, the first act, I was a bit hesitant on the kids that were in this, but as the film proceeds, and this is what films do, because, as the film proceeds, you soon develop on these characters, and they, of course, would evolve, and you see what I mean? Just, yeah, you would grow attached to them and such. And yeah, because definitely, as the film proceeds, and even up to the third act, things did get a lot better, especially on account of Ben Stiller's character's relationship with these kids that he has to look over, and they're his nephews, because, he plays the uncle character. And the fact that, this takes place around the holiday season, 3 weeks before Christmas arrives, and on account that, Ben's character has to help find a great home for his nephews who are now orphans. They lost both of their parents. And the journey that this movie takes these characters through, what they go through during a span of 2 weeks and such, and when trying to find a great, place for the four brothers to live at and such, and all the other things that's going on with the characters. Yeah. I really did enjoy this. I thought it was pretty good. Sure, may not really be one of the best, Christmassy films that Hulu has, and from what I know and such, and, if any of you feel that way as well, it's not really that bad. It's okay for what it is. I didn't think it was bad whatsoever. Decent, entertaining, and it's got some good moments here and there. Some good laughter and all that, some good chuckles and such. All the funny and crazy shenanigans that go on throughout this movie. Yeah. And yeah, not to mention that, I didn't realize this at first, that David Gordon Green, who directed this movie, before this, he had directed those 3 Halloween films that came out in the late 2010s and the early 2020s. Yeah, that's the same guy. How ironic, because after doing those films, which has to do something with Halloween, now he would direct a Christmassy film. Yeah. But he's done a lot of other great things. He actually, directing some TV stuff. He directed the first 2 episodes of the Apple TV original series Dickensian, Yeah, Dickinson. I think that's the correct way of pronouncing it. You know, the show with Haley Steinfeld. Yeah, so he directed the first 2 episodes of the first season. Yeah, and even between that, because he had done the Halloween films. Not to mention that Ben Stiller, because not only did he had this Christmassy film, which he was the main star of, but right before this came out, yeah, because he also was in Dear Santa, playing an uncredited appearance of Lucifer. If you've seen Dear Santa and recall Ben Stiller's cameo in Dear Santa, you know. Even, of course, since, you know, I did review Dear Santa, if you want to go check it out, and when I discovered it, and just like, yeah, that was pretty interesting. But anyways, so, yeah, overall, Nutcrackers, it is what it is. May not be the best and strongest Christmassy film, straight from Hulu and such, but again, it's all around decent, and with what this film has to offer, with its storyline and such, great cast of talents, you know, from Ben Stiller and Linda Cardellini. Yeah, I think I got her last name right. Yeah, everybody else that's a part of this, pretty good. All right, so now with the first things I've had to say about Nutcrackers said / done and out of the way, now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. A straight-laced man, and whom is also a workaholic, and who's also a real estate agent from Chicago, finds his life suddenly upended when he becomes the caregiver for his rambunctious, orphaned nephews. All right, now with reading the description / the story done / out of the way, now let us dive in / break down Nutcrackers itself. Okay. Well, one of the first things we see is the Kicklighter brothers, whom trespass in this like amusement park and just doing rambunctious stuff until the security guard notices them, and when even they make it out of there because they messed up the place and such. And well, the Kicklighter brothers, they would be well known to some where they live and such. And then, and as the credits roll, we are introduced to Mike Maxwell, the Kicklighter's uncle, and again, whom is a workaholic and a real estate agent in Chicago in the Milliken Group? Milson? Like, you know, I'm butchering it, but you know, and if you know what I'm talking about, you've seen the movie, but yeah. And basically, to go ahead and mention this and to get it out of the way, because Mike is struggling trying to, you know, because he's a real estate agent, forming negotiations and all that, and writing paper, because, you know, about railroad tracks and all that, and doing negotiations and making a good deal and such. And at times in this movie, because he would receive phone calls from 2 ladies that work in the business, Carol being voiced by Ari Grainer, and Barbara being voiced by Ashley Ray Spillers. We never see those 2 women on screen, we just hear their voices. Yeah. So, unfortunately, he has to make his way out of Chicago to, help out with trying to get his, 4 nephews to find a good place to live, you know, because they're orphans and, you know, good foster care. And also we have the agent whom, you know, is helping out with the Kicklighter brothers, Gretchen Rice, being played by Linda Cardellini, a.k.a. live-action Velma. Yeah, but amongst others, but yeah, we know her best as live-action Velma. Yeah. Or Hawkeye's wife in the MCU. Anyways, so we also get an appearance of Julia being played by Lucy Zukadius, because she's just coming out after, you know, she's leaving the farmhouse, and now that Mike has shown up, and well, because, you know, Mike is, for now, he's put to the task to watch over his nephews for the weekend and such, but Mike, he doesn't really like the sound of this, but I mean, he manages to take it well, sort of, you know. And his first encounters with his 4 nephews, and yeah, because they're very quiet at first, and when they first meet with their uncle, yeah, they don't talk at all yet. And when Mike's trying to talk with them and such, and explaining that, you know, he'll take care of them and until, you know, they find themselves a new home, a new family and such. And yeah, because unfortunately, the Kicklighter brothers, they sadly lost both of their parents. Not to mention, we can see the containers carrying their remains. Yeah. And to go ahead and mention and, you know, name off the Kicklighter brothers, we have the older one, Justice, being played by Homer Jansen. And by the way, because all four of them, they are actually, in reality, all four real brothers. They are. So that's perfect. That's great to see. Yeah. Might as well just, like, it was great that this movie actually had four siblings, playing the four siblings in this movie. Yeah, so again, Justice being played by Homer Jansen, Junior played by Ulysses Jansen. I hope I got the first name right or wrong, but again, you know me sometimes. Maybe, hopefully I got it right. Simon, played by Arlo Jansen, and Samuel Kicklighter being played by Atlas Jansen. You know, not to mention that Simon and Samuel, they do look very much alike and such, like almost like twins, but anyways, because they both got blonde hair, so anyways. So yeah, and when Mike, he steps inside the farmhouse, jeez, it's a dump. Like, the refrigerator doors are open, it's a mess in the kitchen sink, not that much gross out stuff, but still, you know, they haven't been cleaned and such. A lot of farm animals are present inside of the house, because, yeah, this is a farmhouse and all that, just, you know, keep in mind. And, yeah, just, like, God. And even, again, when Mike tries to make conversations with all four of his nephews, they are very quiet and such for a little bit. Even when he also, like, he tries to have his nephews call him, you know, Uncle Michael and such, but they most of the time just call him Mike. Eventually they call him by Mike. Like, at one point, after he talks with them about being with them for the weekend and all that, and hopefully very soon finding them a new home and such, new family. Well, when they're having lunch and such, you know, Mike's still trying to make conversations with them, like, you know, get to know about your uncle and such, and that he, you know, explaining that he's a real estate agent from Chicago, etc., etc. But, yeah, it just doesn't go too great, and they're just being very uncooperative, even, like, say, golly, because, I mean, like, them knowing at first what their uncle is like, and obviously they know, like, what happened between, you know, their mom and him, because, yeah, I mean, keep in mind, because Mike is the brother of his late sister, the mother of the Kicklighter kids. And golly, even, like, say, Justice at one point saying to Mike that, you know, Mom was right, you're incapable of love, and all that Mike could say is, that's stupid. Yeah. But yeah, and then when it's bedtime and such, well, apparently Justice, he's down in the living room, like, in a special door, like, cabinet and so on, his own, like, cave, and, you know, Mike wondering, like, what he's up to, like, writing a letter and such, and it could be, say, for a girl he likes, which turned out to be the case when that comes in a little later. Yeah. And then at one point, because the Kicklighter kids, and once Mike went to bed, they went outside at one point. They took their parents' remains. They made a fire, and they spread out their remains. Like, what? Was this, like, their own ceremony or something? Like, I guess, I mean, I was like, what the heck's this all about? Like, I wouldn't think they're being disrespectful to their parents. I mean, well, obviously, and even as the movie establishes that, yeah, it's clearly obvious that it's not been easy for the Kicklighter brothers after both their parents died. Yeah, how can it be? Just, you know, not easy. But by the next morning, Mike, he gets up and, well, at one point, like, when using the bathroom, golly, because so many animals are around the house, 2 pigs, goats, and chickens, sheep, well, at one point, when he opens the toilet lid, there's literally a snake. Golly, everybody having that phobia because, toilet snakes? I'm gonna shut up right there. Anyways, or spider toilets? Okay, enough, Eli. Okay, but back on point, because, well, at one point, Mike would, as he's about to brush his teeth and making coffee, well, yeah, even the coffee maker, it's dirty and all that. Again, everything in the kitchen not being cleaned and dirty and such. Ugh. I definitely would want to wash the coffee maker before making coffee at all, for one thing. Well, he's hearing some music playing, and it's the song Every Day I'm Shuffling. Well, because at one point he notices that his nephews are messing around with his yellow Ferrari. Thank goodness they're not out on the road. I think they would know better not to drive it out on the road. They're just, like, spinning it around on the grass field. Okay, at least that's kind of okay, but still, not that good. And, yeah, it's obviously Mike, just dashing out, get the hell out of the car and such, stop messing with it. Yeah. For one thing, because, like, it would be okay if, like, driving around of course, a tractor or a golf cart around the grass field, but car, not so much, no. What they were going to do, actually, with the yellow Ferrari, they built a ramp and trying to have it go flying, like, over the, pool, the tub and such, and then on the trampoline, but Mike telling them very clearly, yeah, it's physically impossible. It is. Not to mention, the ramp is small. You expect a car to go over that small ramp? I mean, they did it with their bikes. Yeah, bikes could work, but no cars. That's stupid. Anyways, and what else would happen is that, well, still, trying to, and while he's trying to look after his nephews, he's still trying to write off the paper and such because of what's going on at the real estate business, the Michelin Group, well, there's not that really good signal where he's at at the farmhouse. And the Kicklighter kids, they have 2 recommendations for how he can get signal on his phone, but it would lead to where, yeah, one of the 2 suggestions that they made was, yeah, go out in the freezing cold lake, and just, yeah, go out there on a board or something and lift up his phone, and that's what he tries to do. But yeah, ultimately, because they were clearly setting him up and pranking him, because yeah, he did splash into water and all that. Just poor guy. Yeah, but obviously the struggles that Mike is going through, it's gonna get better as the film proceeds. His relationship, both of them, all of them, the uncle's relationship with the nephews and the nephew's relationship with their uncle, clearly. And after that, because, well, he would go into town this time and get better reception, and also that, meeting up with Gretchen, any update and such on a much better foster family. And so far it seems that, yeah, a pretty good one, but yeah, that eventually wouldn't happen a little later on. Also, the mentioning about, them talking about, like, when the animals are brought up and it's a working farm, just, yeah. But, I think it's obvious that if we couldn't tell right away, for any of us, that surely there's gonna be some, chemistry and romance that is going to be built up between Mike and Gretchen, right? It's obvious, right? And I think it would also be obvious that not only would Mike, in the end, be looking after his nephews, but so would Gretchen, right? Just, yeah. But, anyways. So what would happen next, and, like, when we come back to the farmhouse, because there's a moment where the Kicklighter brothers, they're hungry for some chicken, and, they ask their uncle to go and kill one of the chicken and to be cooked and such, but Mike, he actually doesn't know how to do that. But they each give him the simple, basic instructions that they know of. And, I mean, their parents, I mean, they did the same thing too. By using a knife and all that, grabbing and picking a chicken, and the basic words that they say: pluck it, cook it, and put it in a pot. Pluck it, cook it, and put it in a pot. That's it. And yeah, so... and this was one of the first nice moments for Mike and his nephews, to go for a chicken and such. And in the end, yeah, he grabbed the chicken and it was cooked in the end. Then, afterwards, because it was also mentioned that the Kicklighter brothers, they do go to school, but they're homeschooled, and Mike would end up helping teach them, and basically what they're learning this time is all about sex. Yep, and it would lead to, say, what's in the book and all that, like, and when talking about the penis and such, and and the fact that, even, like, the kids saying that, the penis is also being called a dick and a wiener and such, then it would lead to birds and the bees and all that. Now, that was pretty funny. And on account that we've got the kids, like, knowing about sex and all that, what they're talking about, and with what Uncle Mike is telling them, just... it was pretty good. Just that kind of stuff and those kind of movies, like, when... Oh, even the kids, like, they're perfectly okay. They're not, like, bothered by the whole talk of birds and the bees and such, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that was pretty, that was pretty funny, and thinking about it. Then, we would get another scene with, Mike and, Gretchen, and, both of them relaxing at this bar, and then they would start to chat some more, and, apparently we learned that, in town and such, Mike's sister was very well known, and even, like, running a class dance and such. Dance class, I should say. That's the other way around. And by the way, because, yeah, the name of the Kicklighter parents, Steve, being played by Jeff Jansen, and Janet being played by Melissa Gelfand. Yeah. I mean, we don't physically see them in this movie, but only seen them via pictures and such. Yeah, but it's still great to see they still got credited. Jeff Jansen and Melissa Gelfand. I like that. Yeah, so Janet would be talked about and such, and like I said, Janet was best known for, running dance class and all that, and being really good at it and being admired and such. Also, Steve, in this case, he started off selling ice cream and such, and even having a nickname of his own, and on account of his ice cream truck. And the name of, him being like the ice cream man was, Captain Bebop. Yeah, Captain Bebop. That's what Steve went by as an ice cream man. And, because, yeah, them talking about when, like, Steve, would cross paths with, Janet and such, and, she was a ballet dancer from, New York, and then moved to New Jersey, and, like, eventually they would cross paths and fall in love, seeing him in a whole universe, like, what they specifically say, and, just, it would lead to them, like, taking over Steve's father's farmhouse, and, well, eventually they would get married, have the 4 kids and such, and, well, unfortunately, the ice cream business that Steve was doing as Captain Bebop, well, it didn't really turn out that great in the end, even when, like, say, yeah, like, because of money issues. Even at one point, Steve asked his brother-in-law for a money loan, and, well, that did not satisfy Janet. She was very upset with her brother, according to Mike, and unfortunately, they would become estranged brother and sister, and they sadly would never rekindle and patch things up until, yeah, she sadly died. That's unfortunate. And even Gretchen explaining that, yeah, again, because how she was admired and on account of ballet class and, yeah, the dance school being a big deal in the community. And by this point, the place is going to be impounded and such, And, well, it would lead to where Mike and all four Kicklighter brothers, they would pay a visit at that school dance and such, and retrieve some personal belongings. And it would be discovered this Nutcracker play that Steve Jr., yeah, that's Junior's actual name, Steve, wrote this Nutcracker ballet, the best Nutcracker, aka the Nutcracker's mustache, taking his long hair and, like, making a mustache, yeah. And the, with describing this Nutcracker play that Junior wrote, and about this girl named Clara, and on account of the Nutcracker itself, and with the mice that come in to eat the gingerbread men and such, very interesting take on the Nutcracker, wouldn't you say? I don't know, would it be better than, say, the one from, you know, the Nazi Nutcracker film? You know, with Nathan Lane, you know which one I'm talking about. That Nutcracker film. I don't know. Probably, but anyways. But I mean, you know, Mike, he does find this very intriguing about, you know, this Nutcracker, take that, Steve wrote. But then also, later on, and later that evening, and while Mike is still busy trying to still type out, like, what's on the paper and such because of the real estate deal and all that, well, not to mention that if he doesn't succeed with this and doesn't get it out on time by Monday, then a guy by the name of Devin is going to, you know, take on Mike's position, his job on, you know, the deal and all that. Of course, you know, Mike, you know, he doesn't want that to happen. Yeah. But if he doesn't succeed, then Devin's going to take his place. Yeah. Well, at one point, Mike would be interrupted by Simon and Samuel. They ask for their uncle to read them a bedtime story. You know, he doesn't want to, and even when he tells them that, you know, I'm your uncle, not your mother, but he eventually would read them a bedtime story. And, it would lead to where he would tell them a story, because about, like, you know, it has to do with Rambo and such, and, like, the war and all that. Very interesting, yeah. Yeah, but just overall, that was a pretty funny scene right there, and, like, the way that Mike tells them this bedtime story, because, yeah, Santa-sized bedtime story version of Rambo, and blending action with family themes and all that, blood and all that, just... But they seem okay with it, and eventually, like, and when it leads to Mike mentioning about Rambo going to sleep, well, it puts them to sleep, yeah. And after that, because while he's, you know, still working on the paper and such, you know, he's in his private bedroom, well, Justice would come up and knock on the door and, you know, would once again bring up the whole thing that they did for homeschool about, you know, birds and bees and all that, but talking about and asking his uncle about, you know, if a girl would ever, you know, would realize that, you know, a boy has never kissed someone before, and, you know, he's like, yeah, maybe. And, you know, then, like, the further, like, details that Mike gives to his nephew, you know, and part of growing up and such, yeah, pretty well said. And, even when Justice asks Mike if he ever had a girlfriend and such, and he says no, but, yeah, he kind of did, at, you know, obviously at a young age, when he was younger. Then at one point, because Simon and Samuel come in, they want to sleep in his bed because they had a bad dream on account of Rambo, and, well, I guess that bedtime story didn't really help them. But anyways, so then after that, well, at one point, Gretchen would pay a visit to the farmhouse, and, yeah, because, again, on account of, like, finding suitable, like, a family for the four brothers and all that, but like I said, eventually it didn't turn out that good in the end. And not to mention that Gretchen, she comes in on her motorcycle, yeah. But still, it seems like the chemistry between Gretchen and Mike seems to still be doing pretty good, yep. Then at one point, we would come to where Mike, he's gonna run some errands and asking, you know, the kids if there's any groceries, any recommendations, suggestions, you know, requests, I should say. By the way, because, I mean, Mike, because after what Gretchen told what he told Mike about, I mean, Mike was going to tell them about, like, whom had been found to take them in, but he didn't really have the heart to tell them, and because on account that, they should all be together, because they were not all going to be taken by this one family that Gretchen found and such. Yeah, that's it. All right, but back on point, because with the whole, like, running errands and such, well, they feel as though to tag along with their uncle, which eventually they do, and, well, there's no way he can fit them all in his yellow Ferrari, but that's when they recommend taking, he should drive their dad's truck, which being the ice cream truck. Yeah, which that's what happens. However, at one point, before they head to the grocery store, Justice asks his uncle to, for them to stop at some place, and, well, basically, Justice, he walks up to this one pole that's actually a memorial on account of his parents and such, because the way that, Simon and Samuel, they're talking about how their parents died, like, their car wrecked and such, they flipped, yeah, very tragic, definitely. But, yeah, so they would make their way to the grocery store, and it would lead to where maybe Mike can, talk with someone whom kind of like, runs the town and such, and he's very wealthful and all that. Even Justice pointed that out to his uncle, a guy by the name of Al Wilmington, and even, like, his wife, according to Justice, his wife, which being Olivia Wilmington, played by Donna Grosso, if I said that right. She has a wooden leg, and we really don't even see the wooden leg, actually, but, I'm not saying that, that not to say that Justice is lying or anything, yeah. And Al Wilmington being played by Toby Huss, yeah. So Mike would attempt to make some interactions with Al, and he would do so, and, asking, his nephews to, not do anything rambunctious and keep it simple and sweet and all that. And, which, yeah, because when they would go up to their uncle, because, one of them saying that, has to go to the bathroom, has to, poo-poo and all that. Well, because Mike introducing himself to Al, and even, like, when Al made first communications with Al, complimenting on his car outside, and yeah, then they would start to talk more. Wilmington being familiar with Mike and on account of his nephews and such, just, yeah, maybe it's making good progress so far. And even when Wilmington, he invites, offers/invites Mike and his 4 nephews to come up to, a Christmas party and such, at a very fancy house and all that, with gates and such. And Wilmington giving Mike the instructions on where to go, which, that's what would happen. They actually would make their way there, and maybe it can still turn out great. And when Mike would eventually, talk with Al about maybe Al would considering adopting his 4 nephews and such. Yeah, so they would go to this Christmas party, very fancy and all that. But a couple of kids that are at this Christmas party, they're well familiar with the Kicklighter brothers and all that, and kind of insulting them a little. And there's one kid there that, Justice has the hots for, and that being Mia, being played by Maren Hessler, and also Mia's friend, literally just being credited as Mia's friend, being played by Isabella Steele. They notice Justice and all that, and, well, it seems that even Mia has an attraction for Justice. That's good to see. Anyways, so, yeah, the further conversations that Mike would have with Al, and even when Al would discover that Mike is in real estate business in the group, and talking about railroad tracks and all that, and Al saying that he, too, had done the same kind of thing that Mike is doing and such, yeah. And, yeah, that's when it would lead to Mike, asking Al if he would consider, maybe, adopting his 4 nephews, and seems like he seems open to it, but, I think it's obvious, even how could I not, and how could any of us not have realized that, obviously, this was not going to turn out that great, and somehow during this, like, the Kicklighters were going to do something rambunctious, and yeah, because they are at one point outside, and they're messing with this one guy who's dressed up as a gingerbread man. Yeah, and he's literally credited as the gingerbread man. Yeah, the gingerbread man guy being played by Alexander Lewis. There was also gingerbread man dancer, what, the stunt performer for the Gingerbread Man? I guess. Being played by Rodrigo Almerlis, if I even got the last name right, but again, you know me sometimes. You know, they took his Gingerbread Man head off and just, yeah. And doing more rambunctious stuff. And they even mess with the nativity set that's right outside where the pool is. They took this ice cream figure character from their dad's ice cream truck, swapping it with baby Jesus. Well, I mean, at least they're so far not really damaging the nativity scene, but still, you know, not cool to swap the baby Jesus with something else, you know. Also, they want to ride on the, they did mention this to their uncle that they would like to ride on the golf cart, but Mike just told them, no, it's out of the question. And, well, at one point, they would hotwire the golf cart, literally putting a piece of, like, cement, you know, that kind of stuff. They would put it on the brakes and all that, you know, and for it to drive itself. And right before that happened, because, yeah, everybody was together at the dinner table and praying and such, you know, in Jesus' name we pray, amen. And, well, there's one person that maybe seemed like another good choice to take in, the Kicklighter brothers, and that being Rose being played by Eddie Patterson, and she apparently has the hots for Mike, even when she's kind of like touching him a little by the arm, just yeah, not appropriate. Even like she's putting on the lipstick and all that, God, lady. But yeah, but to speed things up some still, because yeah, like I said, that's when you know, all hell breaks loose. The Kicklighter brothers, they call out to their uncle that the golf cart is driving itself, and yeah, we see it driving itself, and just, yeah, you know, they try to chase after it, but then it would lead to the golf cart crashing through and destroying the nativity set. But luckily, baby Jesus is all right, but it turned out horrible in the end. And yeah, now Al Wymington is no longer interested in wanting to consider adopting the Kicklighter brothers. And also, to talk more about Mia, because, yeah, before all that happened, there was a moment between Mia and Justice. They were interacting with each other, and, well, you know, apparently, because, yeah, Mia, both Mia and Justice, they were into dancing lessons and all that, but unfortunately, after Justice's mother died, he no longer was able to do dancing and all that, and would only do it on account of his mother, because, you know, his mother made him do it and all that, which he obliged, because obviously he loved his mother, and, now he's just, like, you know, doing some bodybuilding and all that, and, yeah, I mean, with what Justice is doing, you know, still, the chemistry between Justice and Mia is going pretty well. And, you know, the whole thing about kissing a girl and, like, it would lead to, like, you know, Mia asking Justice if, you know, ever kissing a girl upside down, which, yeah, he's laying on the stairway and, she kisses him, like, as his head's upside down, and, yeah. But apparently, right as they kissed, Mia farted. Okay, not ladylike. Well, I mean, even like, say, some of the Kicklighter brothers, they kind of did fart early on and such, which, yeah, you know, that, because Mike found that gross, even opening the front door to, you know, blow the fart out, you know, because letting the fart out, you know, the air take it and such, yeah. But, yeah, the chemistry between Justice and Mia seemed to go pretty well so far. And yeah, even like, say, when, you know, things ended badly, again, because on account that they destroyed the nativity scene, Al just, you know, no longer is considering wanting to take in the Kicklighter brothers, and they drive off in the ice cream truck, and Mike, you know, just furious, and just telling the kids just not to say a word, anything like that. They drive off. Mia, she watches as they drive off, yeah, because, yeah, right there, because we can tell, because Mia how she now feels for Justice and such. Not to mention that Justice early on, he had considered that he was going to one day marry Mia. Very sweet, very sweet. You know, that's a good man right there. You know, with his love and such for this one girl he has true feelings for. And little did he realize that turns out that Mia had the same feelings and all that for Justice as well, but until we get there. All right, so to still speed things up some, and what would happen next? I mean, you know, Mike now explaining to them, because, you know, finding a better orphanage, like, yeah, a good place for them, but, you know, the Kicklighter brothers, like, they don't like this. Even, like, they would bring up about wanting to hop on a train, go to Kansas City, and build a shed and all that. But, yeah, just by this point, when things aren't looking too good, well, then it would lead to where Mike actually then considers, and if this would be a good solution, because, yeah, his encounter with Rose, but maybe she still would be a good choice, and, well, that's when, like, he would go to Rose's place, and when, you know, learning that she does have some kids of her own, you know, fostering and such, yeah, because it was brought up, and, you know, Rose being open to do so, and, you know, Mike was, you know, asked her at first if, you know, if she's sure about bringing in, having 4 boys to live with her and such, but, you know, she has no problem with that, it seems. But when, like, getting to her place, yeah, there are so many kids, and the way that they stare at Mike and, you know, in different parts of the house, and, well, I mean, I was kind of thinking at first, like, is she mistreating them? Well, I guess not really, but with what's going on, it's quite uncomfortable, but still, you know. And once again, like, and when he meets with her, and, once again, Rose kind of, like, flirting with him, like, touching him on his arms, all that, God. And when at one point he has to use the bathroom, and he overhears one of the kids of Rose's, and Rose confronting her foster daughter, and, you know, saying that she won't have yogurt for a week and all that, yeah. Well, in the end, it would lead to, yeah, Mike not wanting to have Rose take in his nephews and such. And then at some point, and while on the road, because, yeah, I mean, the Kicklighter brothers, they did tag along with their uncle to Rose's place, but, yeah, they never got a chance to go inside and meet with Rose and all that, no, because that's out of the question now for Mike. While on the road, because Mike does at one point receive a phone call, the Kicklighter brothers, they respond, and, you know, it's a girl, it's Carol, you know, love you, and all that. Well, Mike, you know, then would call back Carol, because when, you know, called out to Carol to hang up and such, well, time ran out for Mike, unfortunately. Now Devin is taking Mike's place on account of the business deal and all that, the paper, and Mike is furious by this, even taking his anger out on a mailbox. Luckily, he wasn't pressed charges for that, because, yeah, he destroyed and tore down a mailbox, you know, even the base for the mailbox, the wooden part. Mike. But slowly but surely, things would technically start to get better, because at a certain point, and to go ahead and bring this up, it would lead to Mike now having considerations for this Nutcracker play that Steve Jr. wrote to actually happen. Maybe, and with what happens, this could get everyone's attention, have a change of mind on account of the Kicklighter brothers, because everybody knows how mischievous and how troublesome the Kicklighter brothers are, but maybe that can change on account of this Nutcracker play that they will perform and such. So yeah, that's what happens. Even getting Gretchen involved. They even managed to rent a theater and such. That's great to see. Making good progress, even when, you know, sharing this with his 4 nephews. Well, even say when, like, even before that, because Mike did notice that the Kicklighter brothers were practicing dancing and all that. And yeah, because that's what it would lead to, Mike considering, having this Nutcracker play be brought to life. However, out of nowhere, Justice, he wants no part of it. And we don't know just yet, but they were doing so great when Junior, Simon, and Samuel were being taught by their older brother Justice by dancing and such. But now Justice is out of the picture for now. But yeah, but they would still proceed, and again, on account that Gretchen gets involved, posters would be made, a website would be made, and this would be brought up on the radio. And again, the theater that they would rent and use for the Nutcracker play, and the theater manager, and he's literally credited as a theater manager, being played by Vasily Daris, yeah. And with everything being set up inside the theater, and even the theater manager mentioning about people actually getting married in this theater, even John Ritter, and mentioning to the Kicklighter brothers that you probably don't know that name, but, he got married here. Well, yeah, I'm sure there would be some people nowadays that would not immediately know who John Ritter is. A great talent like him, but surely you guys know who John Ritter is. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Anyways, well, eventually, Mike would try to talk with Justice and try to convince him to be a part of this. And even when, say, he gave Justice a cup of coffee, yeah. I mean, Justice, he takes it black, but, it still tastes good with what Mike offered to him. Well, yeah, because when trying to talk with Justice about him being a part of the Nutcracker play and all that, they need him, it just wouldn't be the same. Well, Justice, he's just not sure, and this does have to do with Mia and such. And Mike's, saying to Justice, what if Mia would want to be a part of this? And on account of Clara and all that, she could play the part of Clara, but Justice, he thinks that maybe he doubts this, but this was good on Mike. I loved this part right here. And like I said, this movie does have some good moments. This being one of them. Mike, he actually reached out to Mia about the Nutcracker play, and she's right there. When Justice turns around, she's right outside of this farm fence, and yeah, that's what convinces Justice to be back and to be a part of the Nutcracker play, and on account that Mia is wanting to be a part of this as well, and will delightfully play Claire and such, delighted to. And even Mike mentioning to Justice that even Mia, she would love to marry Justice as well. That's so great. I love that. Yeah. Again, a good moment right here. One of the top good moments to come from Nutcrackers, wouldn't you think? Yeah. Yeah, so that was great, and now, thus, Justice will play the part of the Nutcracker, and with the mustache, having the sword. And by the way, because a sword that actually once belonged to Mike, now it's Justice's sword. Also, there's going to be some samurai stuff in this Nutcracker play, and on account of Rambo. Yeah, Rambo, a Rambo-like character being in this, and maybe he can be called Crambo. Crambo works. But yeah, so as the movie proceeds and more montage we get of them making good progress with rehearsing and all that, rehearsals, getting everyone's attention, putting up posters and such, and yeah, hopefully this is gonna be really good and they may succeed, and again, everybody will have a change of heart on account of the Kicklighter brothers, and this would hopefully eventually lead to where, yeah, everybody would consider adopting them and such. We will soon find out. Okay, but very soon and before we would come to where the Nutcracker play would begin and would happen in the evening time, there is a moment where Mike noticed one of his 4 nephews quietly walking out to the farm and such, the barn. Simon, yeah. And turns out that Simon, he's actually wearing his mother's robe and such, and this was another good moment, a very nice, touching moment between Mike and Simon, and Simon thinking about his late mommy, and Mike, he actually shares this with Simon that, when he was about, his age, yeah, 12 years old, yeah, He remembers, his sister, Janet, putting him in a pink tutu and wearing a football helmet, and both him and his sister would reenact the rite of spring for their parents. Happy times and good funny memories for both him and his sister, yeah. And this would be brought up by Simon about the way he describes, and he made it up himself. We come from the stars, and when, there's a shooting star, we are born in the mother's womb and all that, and then when we die, we become stars again. That's very interesting how Simon puts at it. But again, he made this up, but that's a very touching and sweet moment to think of, right? Just one of those. All right, but then, and to still speed things up some, the night finally arrives when the Nutcracker play is about to begin. Not to mention that everybody, because those that attend, one of them being Al Wilmington and his wife Olivia, they actually do show up to this play, even after what happened, what the Kicklighter brothers did, still, it's nice to see they did attend. And and to mention some of the other characters, the rest of the cast, because, prop kids 1 to 4, that's literally how they're credited, that, being involved in the Nutcracker play. Number 1 being played by Estelle Lapina, Number 2, Brooks Roseberry. Number 3, Will Daly. And number 4, Evan Bartos. And, a couple of others, a bunch of others that were uncredited. Because, few of them, like one of the Nutcracker audience members being Ming Wong, and townsfolk being played by Stephen Terry Walker, and Elf being played by Jenna Sims. And also Wilmington party guest one of them was Karen Alvaci, and Polly the Butcher played by Bridget Pervel, and a bunch of others, but and also some of the other characters that are credited, the security guard, whom we see at the start of the movie at that amusement park, being played by Brian Carroll, Anthony Benecki, played by Louis Hessler, Gus, played by Noah Fisher, and Deputy Cox, whom we see at times in this movie. Deputy Cox being played by Tim Heidecker, if I got his last name right, but again, me sometimes. So he pops up at times in this movie, even when he shows up at the play and such. And one kid whom is feasting on a gingerbread man or something. Anyways, so the play soon about to start, and there's another moment between Gretchen and Mike, because backstage and such, everything's looking good, and the conversation that Mike and Gretchen would get into, and when, by this point, it would seem as though even Gretchen feeling that maybe Mike would consider staying here indefinitely and officially taking in, maybe not consider orphanage and all that for his 4 nephews, but Mike, after everything that's been going on, he's still considering on having them be put up for orphanage and adoption and such, and go back to Chicago, resume with his real estate business and all that. Even Gretchen, setting Mike straight that just being, clueless and all that, just had not realizing and such. And, with what Mike says, he establishes that, he of course loves and cares about his 4 nephews very much, but then he would say that he can't see himself raising 4 pain-in-the-ass kids, and he literally says that. He literally says that right out of his mouth, and one of them just so happened to overhear it. Simon, he heard all of it, and this, of course, upsets Simon, and it also upsets Gretchen. This puts Mike in a very bad spot. Then, right after, just a few seconds, he receives a phone call from Carol about Devin. Well, Mike was right about Devin being stupid and all that. Devin, who had taken Mike's position for this business deal, didn't turn out so great, and, well, now it's given back to Mike, and, and saying that he can come back to Chicago at any point, But Mike, now he is not ready for that, so, because he would check on his nephews, and when it becomes very quiet backstage, and apparently, in one dressing room, there was some writing on a mirror, because smell ya later. seems as though that the Kicklighter brothers, they left, and, well, now what? Because, well, Mike trying to chase after them, and when he thinks that maybe they did what they were considering, hopping on a train, going to Kansas City, and when Mike, he went back behind the back of the building, going downstairs, he tripped and fell. It was, ouch. Luckily, he didn't get severely wounded or anything like that. And because there's no sign of the Kicklighter brothers in plain sight, nowhere around the theater building whatsoever, then he would come out and up front stage and inform everyone that due to technical difficulties and saying that it has nothing to do with the kids, the show's been canceled. But what would happen next? Turns out, and according to one of the prop kids, actually, because when they need to take the props, actually, what's happening is that the Kicklighter brothers, they're moving the Nutcracker play to the memorial spot where the pole is. Yep, the memorial spot on account of their parents, and for their parents to observe and watch this. That's what they're doing, and they managed to have the traffic light be turned to red and having the traffic just be on halt, and for them to watch and witness the Nutcracker play they're going to put on, and even Mia being there too, of course. And everybody attending, as well as Gretchen and Mike, and that was a really great scene. And you know, I at one point I actually did kind of like move my hands to the Nutcracker music that was being played, you know, da na 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 na, you know, that piece of Nutcracker music. I think that would probably be one of my favorites. You know which one it is, of course. Yeah, for any of you who, of course, you're into the Nutcracker play and you love the music that Tchaikovsky wrote and such. Oh, yes. Yeah. Anyways, so, yeah, basically, yeah, we would see them do the Nutcracker play, and everybody's enjoying it. Even Mike, you know, because he claps too, and he actually gets a bit emotional. And then at one point, Justice, with the pretend sword he has, he stabs his uncle. And basically what happens is he collapses, like, it kind of like knocked him out and such. Nobody attends to him. They just leave him there, and they presume watching them perform Nutcracker. Mike, on the other hand, we start to see him in different places, and the places that he was in all throughout the film. In the farmhouse, or all the other places he was at, and I guess that's where he managed to come to his spirits and all that, being a much better uncle and such, and we would see him dancing and all that in his head, and he would finally come out and reach out to his nephews, and this time for sure, he's not going anywhere. That was pretty interesting, and with what happened right there, you know? And yeah, because there were a good chunk of times in this movie where Justice asked Mike if, you know, when waking up the next day, like, would he still be here? And yeah, him saying, yeah, more than likely, but as of now, he's not going anywhere. Yep. And then the Nutcracker play finishes, and then everybody on the road, they start to have a dance. Yeah, everyone dancing and such. And then, yeah, the end, the words "the end" shows, and yep, that's our movie. And, well, there is one more scene during the credits. You know, like during the credits, and as the credits roll, we would get a little bit of a scene or two. Yeah, because Christmas had finally arrived, and yep, because now with the Kicklighter brothers now living and residing with their uncle, and yep, officially still staying on the farm property, even Gretchen showing up as well, and still, it's obvious that, yeah, probably by this point, they're definitely gonna hook up, Gretchen and Mike. And, you know, Gretchen becoming an aunt to the Kicklighter brothers, more than likely. And one of the Christmas gifts that the Kicklighter brothers receive is a new dirt bike and such. Yeah, because, you know, at one point early on in the film, Justice was trying to fix up on the dirt bike and try to, you know, have it be drive over the ramp and such. And yeah, even Justice, whom, yeah, he rides on the dirt bike, he has his uncle join in as well. And we don't see them going over the ramp, but we can only assume that it turned out great in the end. Probably so, yeah. Yep, so again, that's our Christmassy streaming movie. Yep. Nutcrackers, I gotta say, it was very interesting. It was very interesting with what this direct-to-streaming Christmassy movie had to offer on Hulu. And not to say that it was bad in any way, shape, or form. No, because while it may not be the strongest, it's okay for what it is. Everything that Nutcrackers had to offer from beginning to end, the storyline, great cast of talents, you know, from Ben Stiller, Linda Cardellini, and the kid actors. Yeah, the Jansen brothers, they were really good. Maren Hessler, who plays Mia, Eddie Patterson, Rose, Tim Heidecker, and you know, the voices of Ari Grainer, Ashley Ray Spillers, Lucy Sakadis, Brandt Carroll, everybody else that was involved in this movie, and also, yeah, Toby Huss, the list goes on, and the funny moments, the emotional, heartwarming moments, yeah, the good moments that come from this film, the music and score, the crazy shenanigans that happen when things aren't looking too great at the start, but halfway and, yeah, but eventually it will all turn out great in the end, and on account of also the Nutcracker play that they put on, very interesting and pretty good, just everything else that happens in Nutcrackers, David Gordon Green's direction, just, yeah, overall, Nutcrackers, it's not that bad. It's okay for what it is. Very enjoyable, and, you know, for anybody whom, you know, would want to watch a Christmassy movie that's streaming and such. Yeah. And I'm giving Nutcrackers, yeah, that sounds about right, yeah, 7 out of 10 stars. Yes, 7 out of 10 stars for Nutcrackers. Because, yeah, in the end, I did quite enjoy this for what it had to offer, and like I said, yeah, and in my final thoughts. And what about you guys? What did you think of Nutcrackers itself? What was your first impression on this? And when you saw the trailers, were you intrigued right away? You weren't really sure about it at first, but when some of you did give it a watch on Hulu, yeah. Did you think it was okay? Maybe some of you thought it was you know? Maybe some of you didn't really enjoy it, you know? You think it's okay for what it is and how I feel, if you're on the same page as me. Favorite moments to come from this movie? Did you get some good laughs, and did you like the good moments and thought it was very emotional and touching? Just, yeah. And, you know, on account of the Jansen brothers and all the other kid actors, Ben Stiller, Linda Cardellini, just, yeah. And if this would now be one of, you know, these, like, if this would be one of those Christmassy films streaming that you would watch around the holiday season. Yeah. But again, overall, what do you think of Nutcrackers itself? With what all I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review of Nutcrackers? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, guys, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Nutcrackers. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And, well, there's one more Christmassy film left for me to review. And stay tuned later tonight, because what it's going to be, and to best describe it, well, it's another Christmassy movie that's, you know, a direct-to-streaming Christmassy movie and such, you know. And let's just say one of the main stars of this direct-to-streaming Christmassy movie, that's Amazon Prime original, that being Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out.